Yeah, but not now. Okay. Try again.
Test.
Again.
Test.
There are two mics working parallelly.
What?
Two mics are working parallelly. I don't know.
There's only one.
My phone mic is off.
But let me see now. This is. I think I have to do this. Now I think. Try again. Now it should work.
Test.
Okay. We can go.
Test.
It works. Oh, it works. You should.
Shall we begin?
Yeah. You can begin.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Jonathan Rakoff. I'm the VP and Head of Global Policy at the HBAR Foundation. For folks that don't know, our foundation is our foundation has a number of grant funds, one of which is our Sustainable Impact Fund, and we focus on catalyzing innovation in the carbon markets primarily. We want to find ways to leverage open source infrastructure, create environmental integrity in the environmental integrity systems in the carbon markets. And we have the great privilege today to be with a number of our partners and grantees who are doing amazing things in the space using DLT and technologies that we help support them with. And I will, I guess, begin by asking folks if they'll introduce themselves and just move on thereafter to a discussion of what everyone's doing in the space and how the digital innovation is assisting their efforts and what the strategies look like.
Hello everyone, my name is Christina. I'm one of the two co-founders of Dovo. I'm a lawyer by trade, which really helps when you're having to navigate through the regulatory markets. I've also been working in the tech space for over 10 years, so that helps me to bridge developers speak with real world speak. And thirdly, and very importantly for our business in particular, is that I'm a very proud granddaughter of farmers. And the farming background has really led me to co-founding Dovo with Urban Watkins, who is also a descendant of a farming family. So the farming for us has been the beginning, the initial spark of creating Dovo. And at Dovo, we're on a mission to make carbon markets, voluntary carbon markets, accessible, transparent, and visible for all parties involved. And I'm really looking forward to be continuing the conversation today.
Hi, Jonathan. Good morning. Thank you, Christina. I am Yashodhan Ramteke. I am the AVP of Meta Material Circular Markets. I had the carbon BU in Meta Material Circular Markets. At Meta Material Circular Markets, we work very closely in the circular economy space. The use case currently which we are working on is around automotive circularity. I think we will be talking about it in great details when we have our use case. Thank you.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kavi. I'm the founder and managing director for Rajput, the validation verification body. We've been doing projects all over the world, regulatory market, voluntary market. By education, I'm an engineer. I did my master's and PhD in waste management. So 2006 was the year when I did my first carbon offset project. And we're still doing the same. It's not a good introduction, to be honest, right now to let the people know that I verify carbon offset, because pretty much everybody is questioning the fundamentals. So I'm here to defend how the technology is going to play a big role, especially in the coming years when the world is moving to Article 6.4 and also the voluntary side. So looking forward. Thank you.
Do you have Ben on the line?
That's the second.
All right. Let me know. Jonathan, can you guys hear me now? Nope. Can you guys hear me? All right. Yeah. If you guys can't hear me. Yep. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me now.
Somebody needs to mute.
Skip me, guys, and we'll see if we can work out the tech side.
Can you start?
Yes. I don't know if the audio will just loop, but I can try. Cool. So hopefully that works now. Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Jeffries, CEO and co-founder of ATEC Global. So ATEC is a technology company that delivers a IoT e-cooking tech stack, which enables global South households to track, verify, and monetize their decarbonisation. Really, our core IP is around that value creation to be able to distribute those stoves out into market for households, and then digitally sign and encrypt that data and convert that carbon claim into 100% data auditable credit. And then we work with multinational companies and governments who are then looking for high quality carbon credits, which I can get more into later. Thanks, and hopefully technologically we're going okay. Thank you.
Yes, now it should work. Yes, now it should work.
Hello. So can Ben
work,
still? So since we just apologies for the technical difficulties. Since we just heard from Ben, maybe we can start with him in the hopes that it still functions. As everyone in this space knows, the voluntary carbon markets are complex, and the enablers that are required to see the scale and degree of acceleration that is required to meet our climate goals are multi-factor. And we at the HBAR Sustainable Impact Fund within the Hedera Hashgraph network, we are strong believers that digital innovation, open source digital tools, will play a critical role in that future. And so what I'd love to hear, starting with Ben, is simply how your organization is approaching digital innovation, and specifically how the work you're doing with, for example, the Hedera Guardian, but other tools that you might be using, figure into your strategy, the challenges that you face, the problems you're trying to solve. And give us a sort of a sense and a flavor of what the landscape looks like from your perspective.
Great. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. Okay, great. Great. Well, I think apologies I couldn't be there in person. I was a last minute cancellation, so I appreciate you guys bearing through or running through the challenges of the digital format. So hopefully everyone can hear me okay now. So we would, for ATEC overall, what we're doing is the ability to be able to track on each individual device, the ability to be able to see the exact usage levels of a asset deployed. So in this instance is a carbon credit, a e-cook stove, to be able to then track very accurately carbon credits. So this is our current deployment across Asia and Africa, all our stoves. And basically what we can do in here is the ability to go in. If we look at Bangladesh, which is a partnership we have with Engie, we're able to go in and track every single stove, exactly how much electricity those stoves are consuming, and then using the metered methodology or the upcoming clear methodology, are then able to go in and then look at those same projects and see exactly the amount of carbon credits that are being generated. And really this is an integrity play for us. It's the ability to be able to go in and independently check and verify every single carbon credit in a data auditable way. Now, the only sort of this is a pretty good system. I show this system quite a bit and it's quite cool for people when they see it. It offers a new level of transparency around carbon claims. But there is one key issue that still exists with that setup, which is effectively all that data is still sitting in the control of ATEC's servers and setup. So as the project developer, we still have the ability to collect and then publish that data. Not really a current problem within the current sector. That's effectively how the current sector is working. But if we really want to get to sort of, A-grade level data, veracity, moving forward from a sectoral perspective, the data that is used to create the carbon credit needs to sit independent from the project developer and potential manipulation by the project developer. And I think that's where the Hedera network, particularly through the Guardian interface, I know Demia have a great setup too, can really help us with that setup, because we have the ability to be able to encrypt that data, send it directly onto one of their servers, and then the ability for, say, someone like Earthwood to be able to verify that carbon credit independently from ATEC, and ATEC at no chance having any ability to manipulate or change that data to provide the greatest level of veracity on those claims overall. And for us, I mean, this is something we've talked about with the HBAR Foundation team for a while, and pleased to say we've now completed that first integration into the Hedera network through the Guardian ecosystem, so that we're able to now actually, unfortunately, we weren't able to get a demo ready just for today, but we will actually be able to do a fully independently verified and published carbon credits in the cook stove sector for the first time, and be able to share that onto a public chain where those carbon claims can be checked and verified independent from us as the project developer. So very excited to have that opportunity to be able to do that. And yeah, I'll pass back to the rest of the panel for further discussion points.
Imagine a world where your journey to net zero isn't just a number, but a commitment to healing our planet. With global first automotive circularity-based ELV credits, you are not just offsetting carbon, you're helping to create a cleaner, greener Earth. Every choice, every action, every bit truly matters.
Despite the world's best efforts, the strain on our planet grows. Nature is sacrificed in exchange for progress, and in a world that never stops moving, automotive sustainability has become a responsibility we all share. In the case of developed regions like the US, EU, and Japan, practical regulations are in place to govern the vehicle scrapping process. But in most developing countries, ELV recycling is very disorganized and poorly managed due to the low incomes and insufficient infrastructure facilities. India, the world's third largest vehicle market, is increasingly facing environmental challenges. By 2025, over 20 million vehicles will reach their end of life, yet shockingly, less than 1% will be recycled responsibly. The neglected, discarded vehicles release toxic substances into our environment, endangering public health, contaminating our soil and water, threatening our food supply, homes, safety, and workplaces. Emissions caused by old and unfit ELVs is a major contributor to air pollution, especially PM 2.5, fine particulate matter. A country may have borders, but the air we breathe and the water we drink know no boundaries. Even at this very moment, toxic pollutants and hazardous waste are pouring into our atmosphere and oceans, impacting every corner of our shared planet. This isn't just an issue, it's an emergency. India alone accounts for a staggering quarter of all global premature deaths caused by air pollution. At Better Materials Circular Markets, we've made it our mission to tackle the biggest challenges faced by the auto sector: increase in unfit vehicles, reducing carbon emissions, and recovery of materials. We're excited to share with you a revolutionary solution, a transformative tool towards a sustainable, circular future. ELV carbon credits. ELV, or end-of-life vehicle credits, are the world's first fully traceable carbon credits that can be used by companies to offset their mobility-related carbon emissions. Each ELV credit is traceable to the responsibly scrapped vehicle, with complete transparency through a public ledger system. ELV credits follow the HBAR Guardian framework and are listed on Dovu. We're committed to advancing 4 key sustainable development goals through our projects. SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. Indicator 8.5.1, our registered vehicle scrappage facilities, or RVSFs, create jobs within the recycling sector, contributing to economic growth and providing sustainable employment opportunities. SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. Indicator 11.6.1. We help reduce urban pollution by removing unfit vehicles from the roads and promoting sustainable waste management practices through our RVSFs, supporting cleaner and safer communities. SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production. Indicator 12.5.1. Our projects facilitate the recycling of materials like aluminum, steel, copper, and various plastics, fostering sustainable production cycles. SDG 13, Climate Action. Indicator 13.2. By reducing greenhouse gas emissions annually, our initiatives actively contribute to climate change mitigation.
ELV credits are the only carbon credits that offer full traceability, drive automotive circularity, empower authorized scrapping facilities, and ensure zero greenwashing. Achieve your net zero emission targets through global first automotive circularity-based ELV credits. By investing in mobility-related credits, you're not just offsetting carbon, you're helping the planet become cleaner and greener. Be part of the sustainable future.
Better Materials Circular Markets. Every bit matters.
And it covered a lot, most of things what we have been doing. I think there has been good amount of work which has happened on scope 1, scope 2 reductions. But when it comes to scope 3, and that is where most of the challenges are going to be, and their data plays very important role. And as we've seen in the video, we are working in the circularity space, specifically with the automotive circularity space. So our credits not only help in the carbon reduction, but it also helps in the scope 3 reductions for companies like automotives, steel, and when you talk about scope 3, the data is very important. The integrity of data is very important. That is where Guardian and solutions like and Dovu comes in. Currently, we have data of nearly 10,000 vehicles with different auto makers, which lies on the Guardian network, and which is completely traceable to each car which is scrapped. So that is how the data is very important and the integrity is maintained. Thank you.
So like I said, we are the validation verification body, and we are somewhere sitting in the middle of the value chain of carbon credits, because there are 4 stakeholders. First one is a program and registry, for example, where and world standard. And if it's a regulatory market, then United Nations, obviously. And the second stakeholder is the validation verification body. So we sort of audit the projects following the rules set by programs and registries. And the third one is a project developer, someone who's investing into a project and trying to generate carbon offset. And fourth one is obviously the end user of carbon credit. Now, when we talk about the technology, like any other technology, the simple objective is to make my life easier. And what are the problems which I face right now as a validation verification body? So there are two broader categories of the project when we say in terms of technology or the data monitoring. The first one where we have the meters. For example, if it's a renewable energy project supplying the electricity directly to the grid, so there is a meter installed, and there are very, very less chances to have the faulty data sets because there is a meter and it's recording every single minute when the electricity is being exported. So I don't see any problem there. But when it comes to the sampling projects, and this is where most of the carbon offsets are being generated. For example, if it's a cookstove project, and this is what Ben was highlighting, that a client has distributed 100,000 cookstoves, and now my job is to verify whether it's 100,000 or 10,000. Now, how do I do it? There is no way I can count these 10,000 or 100,000 cookstoves. Here comes the role of the technology, and this is what precisely all the shareholders, especially ATEC and Wes and Haita, everybody's trying to solve those problems. That as a third party, I don't need to go on site and check all the details which are technically not possible. So if we use the technology, it's easier for me to give the assurance that yes, if someone says 10,000, it's actually 10,000, it's not 9,000. So as I thought, we are trying to solve those problems, but the issue which we are facing right now, unless all the stakeholders are not ready, and when I say all the stakeholders, the program and registry has to be ready to accept the data sets in the digital form, then we should have the capabilities as a third party to verify those data sets. And then before anybody else, the project developer should be ready with the use of technology. So these are some of the puzzles which we are trying to solve. So as I thought, we are at stage one where we are digitalizing the way we verify the information. For example, at any point in time, we do 400, 500 projects all over the world. So if my auditor is doing a project in Ghana, then traditionally he's checking all the details, writing a 100-page report and sending it to the program and registry. So right now we are developing a system where I put the Ghana, and then if I'm checking a value, if there is a possibility of being the outlier in that sector, for example, FNRB, this is where most of the people are having doubts whether the values are right or wrong. So eventually, we will be there where technology is going to help the stakeholders, pretty much everybody, bringing more transparency. So I'll talk about more like that.
Thank you, Kavi. Actually, that's helped me a lot to share with you all a bit more about the work that we do, because all the problems that Kavi highlighted are the problems that we've seen, and also these are actually opportunities for all of the stakeholders within the voluntary carbon space. What we've seen at Dovo is that disparity and disjointness in the voluntary carbon space, where you have so many various participants, and very often the project developers are struggling to know where to start on the carbon credit journey. I was recently actually reading a research by McKinsey whereby they said that 60% of project developers are having to talk to 6 to 8 various stakeholders within the voluntary carbon market until they actually figure out where to start their carbon credit journey, which comes to tell how disjointed the space is. And with the mission behind Dovo and what we've built, we've actually are trying to connect all those different participants through our technological platform, which is built on Hedera, and we're also utilizing the Guardian as well to ensure that we're not only seamlessly connecting various participants, project developers, verifying bodies, monitoring bodies, but also enabling the digitalization in the creation of a carbon credit through to placing that carbon credit on the marketplace and connecting our marketplace to various buyers which are looking into the voluntary carbon space. It's definitely digital innovation. It's definitely utilization of AI tools, utilization of DLT, and the brilliant work that the HBAR Foundation and the HBAR team have done in relation to the Guardian, which also helps a lot with the trust, transparency, and accountability within the space, which have been a massive problem and unfortunately continue to be a problem within the voluntary markets. I do think that it helps a lot, the usage of blockchain technology helps a lot to avoid problems such as greenwashing, especially with the interoperability and the ability of the Guardian to be able to timestamp the issuance of those carbon credits. And I think we are definitely a long way of being perfect in the space, but definitely on the right path, being able to monetize actually those credits being live in the marketplace and being sold to buyers.
Thanks everyone. Those are it's amazing work. I want to follow up on anything you just said, about receptivity and in adoption. It'd be great if everyone could speak just a little bit to what they see the challenges as being in terms of both the market and regulators, being receptive to these digital tools, rather than viewing them as so strange and different and to be avoided because of that novelty.
I think, provided that we're speaking about the global market, regulators will never be on the same side, and we do see variances as to what legislation should be applicable to voluntary markets. Again, I don't think we're ready there. We're there at all in terms of having working regulation that helps and enables all participants. But at the same time, I mean, with the latest decisions the other day on Article 6.4, I think we're taking the right steps, and regulators are taking the right steps into making the markets being more accessible, or at least a bit more clear, not as foggy and fuzzy as it is for some of the participants. I think there's still barriers, a lot of barriers to entry in the market for the project developers, and it's our job as various stakeholders within the BCM space to be helping and educating those participants and pointing them to the right direction. And one thing that I really love about our space is that no company sees the other company as a competitor. It's so productive, but it's also so friendly and helpful, and companies are supporting each other due to the lack of regulation and due to the lack of clear path forward. And I think that we could utilize the challenges in the space and take the obstacle and actually use it as an opportunity to pave the way and make a massive improvement in the space.
So, as I told you, we specifically work around the circular economy space. We work with a lot of recyclers, and now there are in the West a lot of regulations which talk about waste. But when it comes to developing countries and countries like India, where we have a huge population, it becomes a problem. And every waste, like from plastic, right now we are talking about ELVs, how we are doing it, but every waste becomes a problem. What you've seen even in the Western countries, where there are regulations of collecting the waste and they are being tackled in the right way, the data is something which is missing, and the integrity of data is very important. That is where I feel the digital innovations will pave a way. So when you talk about data integrity, I was just reading an article where EU was saying even 30% of vehicles which are end of life in EU, they have no trace what happens to them. So things like digital product passports, where you have a digital identity for every thing, and this kind of things where all things can be traced and where they're being refurbished, they're being reused. This is very important, and where the data is there, the integrity will also play a very important role. The integrity and the transparency. This is where the solutions like Guardian will play a very, very major role in terms of supporting the regulations. The regulations are there. We will support the regulations in a very tight manner.
So the question was, if we accept that these tools have enormous potential to solve problems, and that education about their potential might be lacking, and that education might be lacking in the business community, it might be lacking amongst the communities that you'll be focusing on our work on, but it also we might have an educational task with respect to regulatory and quasi-regulatory bodies who view these technology solutions as perhaps a distraction because they don't understand, or perhaps because there have been negative media treatments in the past. We may have a challenge in persuading our partners throughout the regulatory and quasi-regulatory ecosystem to allow us to showcase their power. And so the question was, what have you seen in your work with respect to those kinds of receptivity and adoption challenges, if you have, and what might you say the greatest needs are from a sort of legal and regulatory perspective?
My apologies, I just landed this morning, so let's see. So it's no brainer that we need the technology to solve so many problems which we are facing right now. But the question is why people are not using it. So with my perspective, the first thing is the investment. So as a third party, I need to invest a lot to have such a technology which is making my life a bit easier. Even if I'm ready, the project developer, why they should do it? Because eventually it's the price of the carbon offset, right? So the price of the carbon offset will dictate if I put a chip in my cook stove or not. So right now, I don't see the receptivity from the end user side. People consider a carbon credit is just a carbon credit. It doesn't matter right now whether it's coming from by using a technology or without using a technology. So it needs to change because, so that's the first thing. Second thing, it brings a lot of transparency because I have been talking to a lot of project developers and they simply say, oh, if I invest $3 more on a cook stove, where is the outcome in terms of my revenues? So eventually somebody has to pay for it. And the third, when I say transparency means there is no way now you can play with the data sets, right? And that's the problem. So I'm not sure if I'll get the returns out of my investment. And second, I don't have any flexibility to manipulate or do all those things what people are talking about right now. It's very unfortunate, right? So these are the two main challenges. But eventually the world would reach to situations where we are left with no other choice than to use to the technology. And the third challenge is, how do you use it? Because it will take some time. For example, there are more than 400 methodologies right now if you put WERA gold standard and United Nations together. Now, first you need to digitalize those methodologies, and once that part is done, then you need to have the solutions where you can use these digitalized methodologies for the monitoring. And then there are 16 different sectors where people are using these methodologies. In some sectors it's easy, in another sectors it's not that easy. For example, if you are using the DMRV for a FLU project, like how do you use these technologies for different agriculture interventions, for example, soil organic carbon? So there are data sets available, but those are not that accurate. So even if a project developer is using that information, it's coming to us, but then program and registries are saying, no, you're not allowed to do that because my methodology doesn't give you options to use the digital technology. You need to do a monitoring. So now just imagine a situation, somebody taking tons of soil to the laboratory, getting it tested. However, we can have the technologies available where we can monitor the improvement in soil organic carbon. So there are multiple challenges we are facing.
And if we still have Ben, would he like to comment? We'll just take a moment to let the AD folks enable that.
Great. I'm pretty sure I'm live on screen now. Everyone can see me. Not yet. Okay, great. I'm just going to start talking, and yeah, hopefully it works overall. So great. All right, great. So yeah, I think it's good that I'm following Kavi there, and I think Kavi mentioned a point before that's really important, which is how challenging the job of a VVB is, particularly in a decentralized project such as cook stoves, water filters, various other projects where it's not a large infrastructure piece that is easily monitored. And I think when it comes to what we need to be able to do around that is we need to be able to give to those that are buying the credits the quality of outcome, the veracity of the data that hasn't been changed, it hasn't been played with, so that they can actually stand by those credits for a long period of time. And I hear many of the points that Kavi mentioned around sort of, things that are holding back DMRV. And the good thing is we can basically prove that most of those are behind us now, because we keep having issue after issue after issue around bad actors putting out illegitimate credits and projects. And the reason we have bad actors having the capacity to do that is because the lack of quality and integrity within the measurement infrastructure of a project. And that's what DMRV solves for, and then being able to publish that transparently into networks such as the HBAR setup as well enables that transparency. And I think it's important for us to realize that, currently in the voluntary carbon market, effectively we're playing in the kiddie pool of potential climate finance with an ocean sitting right next to us of how much finance can actually be unlocked there. Even for us as a project developer, I mean, we're seeing credit price multiples of 3 to 6x. What is the current accepted price for non-data verified carbon credits? And these are large scale projects. These are not small token purchases. The future is very much there, and the buyers are leading the way along with some technology providers to be able to unlock what is a much larger pool of carbon finance moving forward. But what's really holding us back is the veracity of our claims. That means that people can't invest with the level of confidence required to really unlock that large-scale climate finance. And I think the people sitting on this panel here today are the solution to that problem. I don't think it'll be led by the standards. As a regulatory body, they tend to lag rather than lead. I think it's up to us, it's up to the buyers to show what is possible, and then the standards will update and follow from there. So that's generally my view, but I think the time very much has come. I think it's been here for the last couple of years. The arguments around price, around complexity are just not as salient as they were 2 years ago. Thank you.
Yes, you can.
Thank you, Ben. Test. Well, thanks everyone for those really insightful comments. At this point, I think I'm going to ask just one more question, and then we'll see if the audience has any questions of their own. And the question, my question is this. So, I'm a lawyer by training as well, and we have this sort of disciplinary bias where we're trained to be pessimists. But let's do an experiment and be as optimistic as we can be, and imagine that the funding for digital innovation is present, that the regulatory landscape is enabling, education is as good as we can hope it will be, and then just imagine from the perspective of your businesses and work, let's just say 12 to 18 months in the future, what's your vision of the most exciting outcomes that you could imagine? If you're as entirely successful as you'd like to be, how will digitization, digital tools, use of the HBAR Guardian in particular, help you to achieve something truly exciting? And let's start with Dovu.
I talked a bit about seamless experience, and I think in ideal world, and unfortunately I share the pessimistic view with you, but in 18 months, in a very optimistic world, I do see the seamless experience working perfectly fine. And I'll allow myself to shortly share a story with all of you, which is for me the powering story as to why we exist and why do we need to continue to exist. With our first project that joined our platform, which was a very, very tiny farm, talking about not being able and not understanding the carbon market. The farm was 2.5 acres, ridiculously small, and as you would appreciate, it's really hard for a verifier to be working on such a small area, but also to make it efficiently beneficial for each stakeholder. So they didn't know where to start, they didn't know what to do, and we'd help them through that process. But we took a lot of time speaking with them and finding out what are the farming practices that they're using, what are the irrigation methods that they're using, what are the fertilization methods that they're using. And then we went ahead and spoke with verifiers, we spoke with monitoring bodies to understand their approach and to understand what additional data would be needed for that small farm in the middle of nowhere, run by two lovely people, a lovely couple, to be part of the voluntary market and to be able to actually sell carbon credits in a market space. So it took a long time, but the fruitful outcome was actually digitizing those credits, selling them on the marketplace for just under a week, which was amazingly great achievement, and came to prove that the connection and what technology can provide is really vital. And for me, the perfect experience and the perfect scenario in 18 months is definitely that seamless experience, removing the time that we spend on having those conversations, enabling technology and the resources that we have as stakeholders within the voluntary carbon market to enable small and big players to be accessing the markets without any barriers, and to enable, of course, transparency, visibility, and trust within that market.
Thank you. For me, 18 months down the line, as Kavi was rightly saying some time back, that the pessimistic thing is currently the carbon is seen just as a tool. There's no incentive to have traceability, to have the digital innovation. What I see 18 months down the line, and I've seen some cases where this has actually been proved, that if you're actually able to give traceability to the team, the kind of carbon price they're fetching is nearly double the price which is there. So for me, and as Kavi rightly said, there will be a lot of investment, a lot of time which goes to enable the DMR. But the market would move 18 months down the line where they understand that it is not only about the data, but the integrity, the traceability, and the efforts which go beyond the traceability, which has to be paid to. And if you are giving the traceability, the kind of market prices which we are looking at right now are not very encouraging for using those kind of tools. But if the market moves and matures to a point in near future, and the right price is also given to the projects which are completely traceable, which have used that kind of technologies, I see a great future in that. That is what I hope in 18 months we can see such kind of a market where this is encouraged.
Thank you. So my ideal world for DMRV, 18 months or 180 months from now, I'm not going on site. I'm sitting in my apartment watching Netflix, and technology is doing the job for me. So unfortunately, we need to travel, like at times. If I just let you know, example of yesterday, 2 of my people from India office are flying to Brazil just to do the verification for agriculture project. And this is something which I want to avoid. That's A. B, we are writing almost 100 pages of report. And then when you type something, it takes time. And eventually we are a service provider. So if we need to improve our efficiency, we need to adopt to our technology. And the DMRV is obviously a solution for me. So the day I'm able to write the report with the help of technology, That's my definition of DMRV, because different people have different perception. What does DMRV mean? And for you, Dogo, especially, you know, the same problem you have, because you need to collect so much of data inputs and still not enough. And then we ask more because we are being asked more by the programs and regulators. And still, eventually people will question, oh, there is no transparency in carbon offset because we cannot rely on the data. And this is what is happening right now. So it will solve not all, but most of the problems. As a validation verification body, I'll be the happiest because the data is coming to me in the digital form. So I can give a reasonable level of assurance that what I'm verifying, I'm 100% confident. Unfortunately, I cannot say that right now because there is no way I can count millions of trees. It's not possible. There is no way I can count hundred thousands of food stores. It's not possible. So hopefully I will watch Netflix someday.
And we'll go to Ben.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so I'm hoping that I'm joining Kavi on the couch watching Netflix in 18 months. I think that sounds like the best outcome possible. And then our stoves are out there generating data for our households at the same time. And I'd love to see in 18 months that we have the credits already being issued in a tokenized manner on Hedera, on other platforms, be they under gold standard, be they for Article 6.2 in an open and transparent manner. I think it's hard to note, I mean, there's a good quote from someone, I can't remember who, that says you tend to overestimate what you can achieve in the short term and underestimate what you can achieve in the long term. I think great for us to think about the short term and what we can achieve. I think we're close. We are looking at having a couple of 100,000 within 18 months, a couple of 100,000 stoves that will be automatically digitally verified by ATEC. So with projects that we have coming through. But I think the most important point is really what that long-term sort of this technology enables to do, which is very much from the Web3 world, which is the disintermediation of carbon markets, that a household somewhere in the world is able to get a piece of technology, able to reduce their emissions, and then receive direct payments from that in a transparent and verified way. And I think that is the ultimate goal that we should all be aiming for, is to unlock large-scale carbon finance in a disintermediated way that maximizes the benefit through to the households that are actually doing or communities that are doing the emission reduction. Thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. I guess my only thought there would be that you know, I won't attempt to quote it because I won't remember precisely. But you know, Steve Jobs had a made a comment once about, you know, what level you should set your ambition, and you know, the take home was essentially set as high as possible, because even if you achieve half of it, you're still much better off than you would have been if you attempted to, you know, hit a quote unquote more realistic target. But with that, let's see if in the last few minutes, if our audience has any questions they'd like to ask our panel. Perhaps we can start with Wes Geisenberger.
Thank you, John. So maybe to Bobby, there's a lot of challenges in validation and verification, specifically on the consistency of the data. And of course, there's always back and forth with the project developers. Sometimes it takes months, depending on which standard. But if you could look ahead and advise the standards on how they could improve the process so that you could better serve the project developers and get to the point where you're sitting on the couch, what changes would you make if you could snap your fingers on the market? And using projects as an example, say like ATEC, in the case of their metered embedded methodology, what would you change? And how do you see that improving integrity using these new and innovative tools?
Thank you, Ben. So the regulators has to start with the DMRV, because that's the missing link right now. Because even if we are ready, even the project developer is ready and programs and regulators are not ready, the DMRV won't work because eventually they need to accept what I'm submitting to them. And for most of the cases, the methodologies are not giving the options to use to the technology. For example, in the agriculture case, there is a methodology VM42. I don't think the map still has got the provisions to use the satellite data and imageries to come up to precise calculations. So it has to be top-to-bottom approach. They should give more options for the use of technology. That's A. B, and this is what Ben highlighted, that there has to be a value for the credits which are being generated using the technology, the DMRV for that matter. So if someone is putting a chip in a cook stove, obviously it's costing him $3, $4, or maybe $5 more. So he should get a better value for the carbon credits which are being generated using the technology. And if the program and regulators and the project developers are ready, we have to be ready because we don't have any choice. And I would be the first one to be ready because it's making my life easier. And then if the three stakeholders are ready, we bring transparency by default because nobody can question the data sets which is being generated by the technology, what Ben is trying to do, and then make it open source, anybody can use it. Thank you.
Any others?
Thanks, Jonathan. Good congratulations to the team for a wonderful discussion. My question is a quick one, probably to Ben. And the question is simply on the interface between the digital technologies that are coming into the space, the cook stoves. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Zachary Mikwa, and I'm a senior climate change officer with the East Africa community. Yeah, so the interface between, you know, the technology providers, so the project developers and the policy actors. So for Kenya, for instance, most recently, they came up with a red list of activities that they would accept, you know, projects, and a huge part of it is a sort of ambivalence towards cook stove. They say there's overcrediting of cook stoves. But from the discussions that we hold here, we're seeing a lot of potential that, you know, the DMRV can bring into the space. So how can we reconcile this with the government perspective where the policy actors might not probably have a proper understanding of the revolution that is happening in the ecosystem, so that they can adjust, you know, their stance on some of, you know, these technologies that are coming into the carbon market space. So what are you doing from your end as a technology provider, and also from an enabler, you know, HBAR, to ensure that there's some sort of, you know, engagement with the project developers in the policy process, so that these developments that are happening very fast can be integrated in the policy process, so that the decisions that they make are in line with the development in the ecosystem. That's the question that I have. So I want to get the perspective from the technology provider side, from Ben, and also from HBR as an enabler. Thank you.
So we'll go to Ben.
Great. I'm hoping you guys can hear me okay now. So let me know if you can't. So yeah, so it's a good question. I think we work particularly in electric cooking, which I think sits a little bit unique as well, in that you can argue it's a cook stove project, or you can argue it's a energy efficiency or electrification project as well. If you look under Article 6.2, project listings in some countries, for example, they list electric cooking under electrical efficiency projects as well. So from our perspective, I think there's a couple of points. Number one, I think the governments are quite right in that there has been systemic overcrediting, point one. Point number two is that a lot of the benefit of that carbon financing hasn't passed through or been retained within the country. So I think that skepticism is fair enough. I think from a policy perspective, we need to then be able to align them with a couple of key points. Number one is the transparency of the project that digital MRV brings. Number two is then a sort of rigorous process around ultimate beneficiary. So understanding exactly what money is being utilized by the project and how that value is being transferred through to the households. And again, digital MRV is more than just a way of measuring credits. It also, through full IoT integration, gives you the ability to be able to pay carbon credits back to households directly based on their actual verified usage data. So we've met with governments recently. I think the market's in an interesting place where Article 6 is becoming such a prevalent piece now. And this is really a big selling point, we think, towards governments, is that they can see the benefit actually landing in the hands of the households in those countries. And then under Article 6 projects, most of them then have a fee or tax that then generates a revenue for the government as well. So I think with that higher integrity, with that on the data side, with that higher integrity around the carbon benefits being retained in country, I think governments will quickly come around to the idea and stop seeing it as a problem and start seeing it as an opportunity.
So from the perspective of the HBAR Foundation, enablement can come in many forms. And so our team, each of us has different backgrounds and skills. From my point of view as a lawyer and the head of policy for our organization, I also have a background in government. I will engage with my team on a variety of thought leadership projects. We'll work with our partners on working groups, for example, to develop voluntary consensus standards that could be accepted by governments. I think it's really important, though, to recognize that organizations like ours have an indirect enablement role. We are principally involved in funding projects, and so there's always going to be a bit of tension. We want to provide the tools, and through our partners at Hashgraph, sort of wraparound consulting and technical support for our partners, and ensure that we're aligning the thought leadership work and the advocacy that we do with the sort of needs and priorities of our partners. But ultimately, the change agents are the businesses themselves who are building tools based on, in our case, Hedera's public ledger and using the Hedera Guardian. We just rely upon these market actors solving problems, sort of concrete real world problems using these tools, and hope that good work is communicated effectively to the governments, and a lot of these overcrediting problems, for example, these are solvable problems. It's not that the crypto methodologies are sort of kind of fatally flawed from the start. There are through the the work of folks on this panel, the credibility and transparency, the credibility can rise, and the very substantial emissions associated with burning wood for cooking can be reduced. And so it's the answer is that from an enablement perspective, it's a multi-pronged strategy. Our role isn't to sort of occupy the space of every one of those prongs, but through sort of a community of effort, we get there. And perhaps with that, we'll wrap.
Take the opportunity to say a very, very warm thank you to all the panelists for having been here with us, sharing your insights, how digital innovation can really enhance carbon markets and really harness the full potentials of these instruments. And a very warm thank you to HBAR Foundation, especially to Wes, who has been our contact person. HBAR Foundation is now the co-host of the digital innovation for the third time, really, when the idea for this space for digital solution presentations emerged. HBAR was with us and really supports us since then very strongly and reliably, and we are very happy that we are partners.